Hello everyone, it's Kiki, and today I'm going to be drawing my cats who were loved, still loved, and yet are no longer with me. There's going to be 8 total in this picture, and I wanted to draw them for a while, but one, I was just never able to get pictures of them all together in order to make sure that I drew them right. And also I just didn't really ever get around to it, so now I'm getting around to it. And as I draw them, I may share a little bit about each of them and what I remember of them, as well as maybe even how they passed. So yeah, but here's a little sneak of a few of them. 2 of them were from when I was really young and digital photos weren't a thing, so we probably do have photos of them somewhere, they're just in a box. But here I have guess with where I am would be Monkey on top, and then Keek. Her actual name was Kike, which is Hawaiian for cat, but we always just called her Keek. And then Ben, and then Smudges below Ben. Then there was Rafters, there is a story behind her name. And then Gar, and then the other 2 that I will be drawing are Buddy and Slinky, who I unfortunately don't have pictures of, but one was just an all black cat, and the other one was just a fat fluff, essentially, and he was just darker in color. I do vaguely remember him, but not much, seeing as I was only 5 when he unfortunately decided it was time to go to sleep. But yeah, let's hop into it and just get going. I might use the poses that they're in the pictures, I might not, but these were the best pictures I could find of all of them. Monkey's just weird. But yeah, let's get into it. So I'm just gonna kind of start from the first cat to the last cat. So that means I'm going to start with Buddy, who, as I said, did die when I was about 5 years old. I remember that he was a fatso. The picture I did use for him was actually Ben, because my dad said that he was roughly the same size as Ben when Ben was big, if not a little bit bigger. But most of our cats, all except for Ben, were rescue cats, and Buddy had come from a home that didn't feed him properly. They fed him table scraps and ice cream and stuff like that, so he was diabetic. It's one of the reasons he was so big. He died at the age of 14. I remember vaguely that I would cuddle with him on the couch. And about all that I remember of him, to be honest. I do remember we did this silly thing, Super Cat. He would just kind of like sit up a little bit, and we'd grab him underneath his front paws and hold his front legs out straight, and he was Super Cat, like, Superman. But that's all I really do remember about Buddy. The cat we got after Buddy was Slinky, who was the all-black cat, and again, he was a rescue. He came from a slightly abusive home where he was always kicked out of the way and just mistreated and not loved, essentially, so he always slunk around, always staying to the edge of the room, never really approaching anyone, so he gained the name at the rescue facility, Slinky. And it just kind of stuck. And Slinky is special to me because he was my little guardian. In my room at that particular house, there was something in it, I swear, and I would get night terrors. But whenever he came into the room, he would sit in this one particular spot where he could see everything. And anytime he was there, I felt safe, and I could sleep. And if he came into the room after I was already asleep and having a nightmare, he would nuzzle my hand and lick it to wake me up just enough that I came out of it, and then just go and sit in that spot. He never actually got on the bed with me. He always just watched over me. When I was awake, I was one of those idiot kids that was like, "Oh, cat," and I tried to grab him, and he didn't like that very much, and it took me a while to figure out not to do that. but I did sort of eventually get there. Unfortunately for Slinky, for me with Slinky, I should say, it was a little bit too late because he, like Buddy, did have diabetes, and his sugar levels got so low that he couldn't even blink at one point, and we unfortunately had to put him down. While we had Slinky, we got two other cats, which are Rafters and Smudge. Smudge we inherited from our grandmother. And not to sound mean, but Smudge was really stupid. Smudge was really, really stupid. She did, when she was a kitten, get accidentally sort of tossed down a set of stairs that might have something to do with it. And I said earlier that Ben was the only one who's not a rescue. Smudge technically isn't, but we took her in from our grandma when she got remarried, and she couldn't keep Smudge because the guy she got married to would have tripped over her and probably killed both him and the cat. But Smudge was, again, around at the same time that I was not too smart on how to deal with cats as a kid. But I eventually figured it out. You have to give them space and you have to let them come to you. And I got to the point where she was no longer scared of me, and she became a great cuddle buddy. The only problem is she tries to cuddle your feet while you're walking. But Smudge she got really old, and we had gone to visit my dad's mom for Mother's Day, and we came back, and she had passed during that time. But the old girl needed to go. She was like pushing 17. The poor thing had tons of arthritis, could barely move. But we didn't, she still had spunk, so we didn't really want to put her down or anything. But she did finally find herself a spot and went to sleep. Raptors, who we got at the same time, I am going to explain her name. The house my grandmother was in before she got remarried was in a row home. And the house on the end ended up catching fire, and it had been abandoned, and this cat was living in it, and escaped through the floorboards into my grandmother's house. When she would go to bed, she'd hear this mewling and stuff, and me and my brother would come over. She's like, "Do you hear? Just stay real quiet. Do you hear that?" And I was about 8 at the time, and we're like, "Yeah, we hear it. It's a cat. It's a cat." We're trying to find it, and we figured out it was coming from the floorboards of our second floor. So we called in the animal rescue, and they pulled the wall apart and the floorboards up, and we pulled her out. And I had stuck my hand down into the middle where they had managed to pull part of it out, and kept her near that spot, petting her and stuff. I was completely covered in soot by the end of it. But she was in the rafters, so that's what we called her after I begged to keep her. Again, she died of old age, well-loved, and I was very heartbroken because she was my baby girl. After Slinky died, we ended up adopting Ben from family friends who had just had a litter of cats. He was Benjamin Brett. That is who he was. But he was a lovable cat. We called him Badger Butt sometimes, especially after he got big, because he'd lay out flat and he'd look like a badger rather than a cat. Keek was actually living in our backyard, and me and my mom coaxed her inside, and my dad was like, "Oh my god, really?" And we're like, "Yeah." But she was with us for a good while. Unfortunately, she ended up getting Johnson's, and we did our best to treat it. We, took her and got her medicine and fluids and stuff, but it wasn't enough in the end. And we had gone to Grandma's house for Thanksgiving, I think it was, and came back, and like the others, she had gone to sleep. After that, our dad gave me and my mom permission to go and find one brightly colored cat, because he was tired of tripping on brown and black cats in the dark. So me and my mom went to a foster home and came home with 2 brown cats, which are Gar and Monkey. Gar was a show cat. Essentially, he never had a toy. He wasn't shown any affection. He was just stuck in a room and shown off. So it took us a while to get him accustomed, I suppose, to having a loving family. He was, however, a Savannah Bengal, which is basically like a wild house cat, and he did end up getting out through a basement window, and we couldn't find him. But that was over 5 years ago now, I believe, so I put him in here just as a remembrance. It's possible somebody else found him, but I don't know. Monkey just died within the past year. My mother had to put her down because, like Keek, her liver ended up starting failing, and it was just too much. She could barely move anymore. Ben actually passed the next day from old age, and he ended up with an abscess that unfortunately we were already having trouble paying our own bills, and we couldn't get him into the vet. And even to try and put him down, they wanted this atrocious amount of money to even put him to sleep. So I just sat with him until he finally rested as well. And now we just have Oreo, who we found as a kitten while Smudge, Raptors, and Ben were all still alive. He's about 4 years old now, I think. Maybe only 3. I kind of lost count. Sorry. Yeah. Alright, so it's all finished. I have all 8 of my cats who are no longer here, and I am really happy with how it turned out and just the peacefulness of it. And I tried to kind of give it a glow about it, and I left room just because I know throughout the rest of my life I'm gonna have more cats. It's just gonna happen, and the sad thing about pets is they don't last as long as humans. So I know that one day the kitty cat on my lap will unfortunately not be here, and I'll find him a spot in here as well, maybe up on that little rock above Ben, and yeah, but I thought maybe he's a little fussy, but guys, I'd like to meet Oreo. He's the only one left. But yeah, he's a little brat, but he's the one you hear in my videos if you've ever watched the other ones. And yeah, if you liked this and like my kitty, subscribe for the cat, obviously. But check out my other videos. Maybe hit the subscribe button if you'd like. Give me a like. I post videos Saturdays. I post videos Sundays and Wednesdays. And yeah. So I'll see you next time. Bye. Hi. Thank you for being good. You were really good. Oh my god, you're shedding terribly.